to Northside Now, the podcast of the Northside Christian Church. I'm your host, Patrick, and with me today are my co-hosts, Glenn and Kevin.
Hey, everyone. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to all our listeners. It's great to be here with you for another episode of Northside Now.
Today, we're going to be discussing the topic of new beginnings. As we start a new year, it's a time when many of us reflect on the past and set goals for the future.
That's right, Patrick. And as Christians, we have the opportunity to start fresh with a clean slate through the forgiveness and grace of Jesus.
Absolutely. The Bible tells us, it's 2 Corinthians 5:17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone, the new is here. And this verse reminds us that through our faith in Jesus, we can have a new beginning and start living a new life.
And it's important to remember that this new beginning is not just limited to the start of a new year. We can have a new beginning anytime through the power of Jesus.
And that is so true. And it's also important to remember, that this new beginning is not just about us. It's also about how we can help others. As Christians, we are called to serve and help others, and a new beginning is an opportunity to do just that.
Yes. It's a chance for us to put our faith into action and make a difference in the world.
Absolutely. So as we start this new year, let us remember the power of new beginnings, and let us use that power to serve and help others. Thanks for listening to Northside Now. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, stay blessed and have a great week.
That seemed awkward.
A little bit. So,
what was that all about?
Hello and welcome to an actual new episode of Northside Now. I thought I'd throw a little curveball, start things off. That was a script that was written by an AI generator called ChatGPT.
Was that actually us? Because it almost sounded like us, but not quite.
Yeah. So
was it AI voices too?
So tell us how you did this, because this is how does this work?
So there's this new thing called ChatGPT. It's an artificial intelligence, basically a text prompt. So, but it's like super sophisticated and it's training every day. So I just put in a prompt, write a script for a church podcast called Northside Now with your hosts Patrick, Glenn, and Kevin. That's what it gave me. So I thought it'd be fun to start the thing off and
it's pretty obvious to tell we don't script our stuff.
Right.
That was also the first time they have seen that. So
yeah, this computer generated AI business is taking over, a lot of the talk lately about how that's going to revolutionize a lot of things for everybody.
Oh yeah. It saves a lot of time.
Well, we have in the podcast room with us today
an AI generated person,
an AI generated Brennan. And we had you in today,
he's
Brennan.
3D printed.
3D printed too, yeah. And he's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster. He's only cost $4.5, but
I wish.
$6 million. No, he could join us for the 100th episode, and he's about to go back off to school. And so we're like, come on in, Brennan. So welcome first off to the podcast room again, Brennan.
Thank you. It's been a minute since Donkey Talk, so it's a return to form almost.
Yeah.
I'm going to plug the other podcasts that
cross promotion. I love it.
And we're glad you're here. But because you're a college student, this computer GPT thing, the AI thing, is supposedly you could, if you got to write a paper, you could give it a prompt and it's supposed to write the paper for you.
I could. I've played around with it myself.
Have?
Not with any assignment stuff. It came out after winter break had already started. But
I played around with it when I said, hey, write my final term paper about this. It has to be this long.
There was one time I was in Kroger with my stepmom, and we were wondering, okay, what do we want to have for Christmas dinner? And I was like, oh, what about shepherd's pie? Because I'm tired of turkey and ham all the time. So let's do something a little different. And I typed into it, give me the ingredients for shepherd's pie and a grocery list and a recipe. And it gave me all of it. And we went by that and shopped and got it all, followed the recipe and everything. And it was really good, y'all.
Wow. Okay.
You can ask it to do pretty much anything. I asked it to write a script for just one of these ideas that I've had. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't great. It was really basic. But if you need to see something to figure out, okay, this is what I can change, this is what I can change, a starting point.
Yeah.
To go from there, it's pretty helpful in a lot of things. Yeah.
I made it create a Dungeons and Dragons character for me.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Oh, that saves so much time.
It wrote out all the stat block and gave me my spell, everything. And then I took the appearance from it and I plugged it into an artificial intelligence image generator, and I made it create
with the AI art.
The AI art based off of the AI generated appearance. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy what you can do now.
We never have to think again, y'all. It's over.
I'm telling you, Wall-E, baby.
Yeah.
Wall-E.
Well, it's funny you
The
say
great
that.
prophet Wall-E.
Wall-E, because the guy that created ChatGPT also created an image artificial intelligence called Dolly, but it's spelled like Wall-E, but with a D, so it's sort of like Salvador Dali, but also like Wall-E.
The company is OpenAI.
Yeah.
OpenAI.
So yeah, he did ChatGPT, Whisper, and Dolly are the three.
We talked several episodes back now about would we ever, like Tom Hanks, could he live on forever if we have enough AI generated likenesses of his voice and appearances of his body? I mean, can an actor go on forever and ever now?
Deep fake.
The answer
Tom
is
Cruise.
Yes.
I mean, we saw Luke Skywalker and Boba Fett.
Right.
Well, Star Wars has really been pushing all of this because the conversation started back in 2016 when Rogue One came out, and they had Peter Cushing, who's been dead for 25 years,
and Leia,
and
young Leia,
and a young Leia. The conversation got started because they had Peter Cushing reprise his role, but he's been dead for 25. So they literally brought an actor back from the dead and had him be in the movie.
It's kind of interesting.
It's interesting.
Patrick and I were talking with someone yesterday about Dolly Parton has a song she's going to release on her 100th birthday, whether she's alive or not. And it's hidden away in a box and a key, and
it's buried in Dollywood somewhere, right?
It's actually in a glass encased thing.
See, I thought it was buried too, but
I saw a thing about it where they actually were showing pictures of it and stuff. But the thing is, Dolly may be like singing that song live on a stage by then or something.
a holographic version.
Yeah, or Tom Hanks been dead for 20 years and wins an Oscar.
Well, there's been a lot of talk around here about us hiring a new pastor. What if we just had an artificial intelligence pastor? We just had ChatGPT write a sermon every Sunday and
then get an artificial voice.
Yeah,
it could be holographic somehow.
Yeah, I mean, we could totally do this.
They did that with Tupac, didn't they? They made him a hologram.
Yes.
Well, now they have these AI generated like 3D models. Well, they're videos basically, but you can take this 3D model and you can put an AI generated voice into it and it will say the words. And so they've started doing this for cheap, quick turnout on like commercials and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very possible we could just grab us a 3D model for a new pastor, get ChatGPT to write us up a sermon every week, plug that in with an AI voice. No one ever knows the difference.
How crazy would that be? Now, one of the things I have learned about the ChatGPT is you do have to fact check it because evidently it's not perfect yet.
No, it's not 100%.
Even close. Evidently, it's pretty off quite a bit.
I actually had it spit out like 10 different iterations of the script that we read at the beginning, and before I put the prompt, talking about the new year or whatever, it was giving me some wild stuff. Some of it was super specific. 2 of them actually had us introducing a new youth pastor. So maybe this is prophetic. I don't know. But
maybe the AI just wants to be the youth pastor.
That's right.
They're going to take the youth pastor job.
If it's prophetic, we might be welcoming either our new youth pastor, Rachel, or our new youth pastor, Jessica. So
well, there we go.
Wow.
That's funny, dude.
Yeah.
It is.
Who'd have thought? This is the kind of stuff I wish my granddad was alive to see. I could hear his comments in my head right now, just shaking his head, saying something.
Yeah.
It's funny you were saying about Tom Hanks earlier because recently, well, I don't know recently, but the past year in 2022, there was some big thing about how like Stan Lee's like image rights and like all of like him as a person is like owned by this company. And like they can just bring him back whenever.
Is that company
really?
Disney?
No, it was another company that Disney probably like has firmly in their grip.
Yeah, probably.
Parent company or something.
I mean, in Ghostbusters, they brought, I can't remember his name, but they brought
Venkman. No, not Venkman.
no, that's Bill Murray, right?
Bill Murray's Venkman.
The guy with the glasses.
Harold Ramis.
Yes,
Yes,
Harold
yeah,
Ramis.
yeah, yeah.
They brought him
What's
back.
Harold Ramis' character in Ghostbusters?
I don't know.
Oh,
Spangler. No.
Email it.
Yes. For those of you listening that are screaming at the at this podcast right now,
Spangler.
everybody's Googling now.
But yeah, they brought him back. And I mean, his family okayed it, but like, that's weird, right? I don't know if I like bringing people back from the dead to
At
do
least,
stuff.
Egon.
Yeah. So at least
what we knew
for
about.
now, they're respecting the families, and the families are able to give permission. Because, again, going back to Star Wars, I know they approached Alec Guinness's estate to recreate Alec Guinness, his version of Obi-Wan.
You could never recreate Alec Guinness.
I know.
Ugh.
And they said, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. So,
Are you listening to us, or is it Milli Vanilli? They were really hit it up big in the 80s if this would have been around.
Milli Vanilli's probably really angry right now.
Did you have a good winter break or whatever we call it here, Brennan? Christmas break? What do y'all call it these days? Is it winter or Christmas or?
Well, I don't know. I know some places have a Christmas and a winter break.
Okay.
But I guess it was both. It was long. It was like a month and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, it encompassed everything.
So how was the college life at that first semester? Was it what you were expecting? Was it different?
It was good. It was, I don't know. I feel like every time you move up to like a new chapter of school, from middle to high school, from high school to college, they always hype it up as like, oh, you're going to the next big bad thing and you're not ready for it. You know, you need to hunker down. You're not ready. And then it's all been the same. There's been no difference for me personally, because I just went and I just did my work and did all my stuff. And I mean, I did really well. So, I mean, it wasn't a problem. Everybody was hyping it up like I wasn't going to get no sleep and I was going to be around the clock and bloodshot eyes, and it was going to be horrible, but it's not been bad yet. I know it's first semester freshman year, but it's been all right. I grew accustomed to it really well, so.
Good.
But you're like a lot of the students now, you didn't really go in as a true hardcore freshman because you'd already had some freshman classes finished before you graduated high school, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of dual enrollment in high school. So I had like all of my English, all my math, like some social science stuff, all of that stuff I had knocked out. So I kind of just went straight into like major focused prerequisite classes.
Yeah.
So that was really nice because I didn't have to do all the stuff all the busy work and stuff that I hate doing. You know, I hate that stuff.
Man, I wish that would have been an option when I was a kid. That just wasn't an option. You had high school and you had college. There was no. But it's great. I think it's great that y'all get that chance to do that now, because you don't need to spend 2 years of your life at 18 and 19 knocking out diagramming sentences.
I mean, some people need to know how to diagram a sentence, but
not with the Chat GPT thing.
Now we have the AI.
now with Chat GPT, it can diagram it for you.
I've seen it used for so much stuff. People don't have to write like code anymore. Like if they need a specific thing and they can't figure out how to code, they just tell it and it'll write the whole script, and then they plug it in, see if it works. If it doesn't, you can go back and say this doesn't work, and it gives you like ideas as to why, and then you can go in and fix those.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Don McKnight was telling me that some people in his profession have started using it to like write letters to families and things. So like you can type in, explain why this person needs this procedure after this, you know, whatever. And it'll write up a letter to the family and you just send it out. And it's like, it's saving doctors time writing that correspondence.
Wow.
I don't know. It's interesting. But beyond Chat GPT, kind of to your point where it's like it'll write code that you can't figure out how to write and stuff like that. I saw a thing yesterday where they're training all of these AIs on images and stuff. And they've been loading in thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures of people's eyes, because that's one of the things that it's having a hard time getting right are people's eyes. So they're trying to train these image generators on eyes. Well, it started to figure out and pick up on patterns where it can differentiate just from the iris whether it's a male eye or a female eye. And it's things that we don't know how to tell the difference just by looking at an iris, but it's picked up on some pattern that we are unaware of, where the computer can tell whether it's coming from a male or a female eye, but we can't. And so I don't know. It's getting kind of scary.
But it still can't make hands. Like you look at a lot of these AI image things, their hands have like 7 or 8 fingers, and they have like another hand growing out of like their wrist, and that's how you can immediately tell, okay, that's AI, because they cannot do hands like at all.
So I guess, you know, my brain just works in weird ways and just runs with, as we talk about things like this, or as you think about things like this. So is this our modern day Tower of Babel? Are we trying to build something to God in the ability to do this?
I mean, for some people,
as
probably,
Christians,
yeah.
As Christians, I mean, how do we?
Well, a thought I have about it is,
how do we work that out?
You say it's AI art, but it's not coming up with anything original. You have to think it's not art in a sense that like it's someone who's had like emotions and they've poured that into, you know, what they're creating. It's read everything, it's seen everything. And it's just pulling pieces and putting them together like a collage almost. Yeah. It hasn't made one original thing. Yeah. Nothing completely original of its own. It's just pulling from everything. Yeah. So if anything, I don't know. It's like it's trying to be its own thing, but it can't be art because we're the artists. Humans are the artists.
And I agree with that. But on the flip side, so much of what we do today is repurposed from something we've experienced. Sure. So, I mean, there's plenty of artists that are collage artists, you know, that are doing the same thing. Now they're a human doing it, not a computer. But I can't see how creating music today is a whole lot different than that. And I wonder how difficult it is to write something original when you're exposed, especially if you're digesting lots of other things in the industry. Like when you come up with a melody line, how does that work? You have to fact check that with, it's a whole Vanilla Ice under pressure situation.
Yeah.
And, how much of that is original, how much you thought of it originally, but it was actually something you had heard 20 years ago from another
subconscious
song.
thing. Yeah.
Right. So how much of what we see today is original, truly original, when the highest form of flattery is imitation or whatever?
I believe that there's a verse in the Bible that says there's nothing new under the sun.
Well, yeah.
And I think a difference there is like when you're doing something like collage art or music or something like that, it's because it's affected you emotionally, personally, versus the robot who's just like, oh, this will do good for the prompt that this thing wants me to fill in.
But it can be argued that even that, it's like I have this emotion and I'm pouring it out. I've learned these scales that somebody else came up with and taught me. I'm using the genetic code that was given to me by my parents. It's like when you create something quote unquote original, you're still really pulling from all these references that from other things that you've ingested over the years. So whether it's, all the movies you've watched or all the books you've read or, all the music you've listened to, you just start pulling from all the stuff that you've learned to then create that. So really aren't we all just repurposing what we've already learned?
But a lot of people
Isn't it kind of the same thing?
But a lot of people talking are saying things like this AI GPT thing or just AI period is not doing this yet. It's not creating its own stuff yet. So as humans, or at least some humans, have the purpose of making that dude its own thing.
I think maybe the program itself is in a way art. I think that's, somebody really wanted to make something that would make people's lives easier or, whatever their thought was. I think the program itself is art. Yeah.
And as we get more used to using these things, is there going to be as much a need for humans? Can we just cut back on population?
Yep.
Or
no,
I don't know.
Will we do that?
Again, it's Wall-E. I just want my floaty chair and I want a big screen in front of me and I don't want to have to do anything. I want to go up on a spaceship and just float around a pool all day.
Order your food on your phone and just not have to move and get it.
Exactly.
Oh, wait,
constant supply.
It's already happening. Yeah.
Because have you seen the new thing they've popped out now?
What?
Electric baby strollers.
Oh, really?
Mom can walk behind the baby stroller. It'll be electric. It is AI. It will, if there's something in the way, it'll stop. It gets to a curb, it will stop. I mean, there's
like those Amazon robots that are
Amazon, or like the cars. Yeah. So, I mean, Mom doesn't even have to push the actual baby stroller. Now, I get it. I mean, I'd love a robot to go out there. I'd watch a robot all day because I watch him vacuum our floor. I can only imagine what he'd do in my yard mowing. I'd be out there, on a lawn chair. Yeah, this is great. Right. But pushing my baby stroller, come on now.
Hey, if you had a video camera
so
there, you had GPS tracking on it. You had the opening and closing was locked in some way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You could watch the whole time. I could see it happening. I don't think it's right, but I could see it happening.
Which is more personal, making sure your yard gets mowed correctly or the safety of your baby.
At my age, it's the yard.
I know. Got to make sure the yard is done right.
It's my age, it's the yard.
You see that mower messing up, you got to get out there quick.
That's right.
Stop it.
Yeah. But
I don't want to have to download an app to use the toaster, okay? I just want to be able to use the toaster.
That's true.
Like, if our power grid ever fails...
we're in trouble.
And we have no electricity, it's like, you can't even push the stroller. This is going back a little bit, but Kindles. You can't read a book because you can't charge your books. I don't know.
I was reading recently about I don't know that it's quite crisis yet, but talking about lithium shortages and how things are getting mined or whatever, how they're processed, I guess is technically how it works. But that's a thing. So if lithium is our most efficient battery source right now, then there's only a few places in the planet where you can get them. Mm-hmm. And especially with other rare earth metals, we had that issue in, Chinese supply and lots of different things. But that's a thing. If we're transitioning to battery operated cars and whatever else, then there's a limited amount of supply of that too. So I think you generally would agree that lithium mining, if that's what you want to call it, is better for the environment than coal mining or fracking or those kinds of things. But still, there's similar issues in that process as well.
And then you got the storage and disposal once it's done.
Exactly.
And they don't know how to recycle that.
Right.
And
launch it into space.
But the rest of the junk.
So Wall-E can have something to throw in his little box there.
I don't know. Can we find an asteroid made out of lithium that we can just like mine off an
That's what I
asteroid?
was thinking,
That's what we got to do.
We know we can crash stuff into asteroids, so we just deposit all our trash.
We'll send Ben Affleck onto the asteroid.
Yeah, there you
to mine it. Yep.
That's right.
Well, and I heard, it's coming across the news this week that up the Northeast, like New York and stuff, they're looking at banning gas ranges and stuff in your house and everything in your house would have to be electric. And one of the things they're saying is for cooking the food and the stuff in that is not healthy for us to breathe, but
Nothing's healthy for us. I mean,
where's the turnaround on all that? I just don't know. It's a thing of, do I step over the fence and eat that grass over there? What's the trade-off? Now I'm outside of my fence where I'm safe. And so it's the thing of where do the trade-offs end?
Well, right now, if everybody went electric on everything, our power grid can't handle that. I mean, we saw a small example of that when all that bad weather hit Texas a while back.
Well, just here at Christmas.
Yeah, just recently it happened again. They were without power for days down in Texas because their power grid can't handle it.
they have no snow infrastructure at all.
No snow infrastructure. But
no.
it's like if everybody had an electric car and was trying to pull that much power, like we can't generate that much power to charge everything.
Well, just here over Christmas, we had the rolling brownouts or blackouts or whatever. Just imagine if that scenario's, let's just say 50 years down the road and all this has come true, or it's mostly all true, and pretty much everything's electric. That shouldn't have caused that kind of major issue. I wouldn't think.
You wouldn't think.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Ben Franklin has no idea what he's done. He has no idea.
Ben.
Because he invented electricity.
He invented
What have you done to us,
electricity.
Ben? We'll take you off our money. We don't use it anyways.
It's going to be, we're just going to like mandatory power shutdown during the day, and you can only use your power at night.
Oh, what is it?
So
Star Wars?
Force you to go outside and
Let
work.
everything charge.
Star
during the
Wars?
day.
Yeah.
It was Luke. We're about to power down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Get inside.
They're
You know what?
moisture farming. That's
You know,
weird.
I could use that time to take a nap, a little siesta in the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Doesn't sound too bad.
With your droids out, farming out there on the deal.
Mowing the yard and walking your babies.
I don't know. It's an interesting year, and here we are, the start of 2023. So that
future.
means the future is now. From the last time you heard us, anyways. So we hope you enjoyed the 100th episode. That was fun to do.
Yeah.
It's fun to be on camera and
Have everybody
a
see
different
my
setting.
Beautiful face.
Yeah, and having a crowd.
I have a face for radio.
So we did miss Brennan though.
I was in the chat. I was talking.
Yeah,
I saw you break the mic or whatever, pull it off the table.
Oh
I saw
yeah, that
it.
was an interesting adventure. I don't even know what happened there. It just came off.
That's why we can't have nice things.
But now we're back to the podcast room and
the bunker in Nevada.
Did those
Is that
co-
too much information?
You're giving this away our
Did
secret
those
location.
coyotes get you when you're trying to get in, Brennan?
The coyote, yes. So for those who aren't aware, we started the podcast recording a little bit late because there's just a pack of wild dogs, stray dogs outside the podcast room that we had to fight off.
I think they were coyotes. They looked like
perhaps.
coyotes.
Or hyenas. We don't want to give too much information away on where we are.
dingoes.
But
The dingoes are loose.
so
We had to get that herd dog to fight all the coyotes off.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were a little late, and I'm missing a couple fingers, but we made it.
Hey.
Yep.
It was like Liam Neeson in The Gray.
Yeah. But you're all paying attention now, all the listeners. Wait, they fought wild dogs
What?
in the podcast room? Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Y'all don't know what goes on in here.
Yeah.
They were AI generated dogs, but
Yeah. We're in the Matrix.
Well, the AI thing for me is an interesting conversation as the church, and how do we find our place in that space, and and
How do we leverage it as a tool?
yeah, and should we? I mean, that's I guess another question. Should we? I personally think the answer is yes at some level, but this stuff you got to be careful with. I think a little bit, because when you start trying to play the one in charge and controlling of things, especially life, whether it's artificial or not, it's an interesting line, I think, to play with.
Oh, for sure.
the technology will continue to evolve and to change. But I think what's important is that we remember that each individual person is unique and worth it and an image bearer of God. So can we use technology to help us in that process? I think we surely can.
Yeah.
But we just have to remember that people matter regardless of, what they look like or all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I think if we keep that our focus, I think we're going to be a lot better off. And obviously if we don't.
And that's something important for us, Mary. I think you used the word there, image bearer.
Yeah.
We are the image bearers of God. We're in his likeness, and
Right.
the AI stuff is not in his likeness
Right.
directly like we are.
That's so true. And it's also important to remember that this new beginning is not just about us. It's also about how we can help others. As Christians, we are called to serve and help others, and a new beginning is an opportunity to do just that.
See?
You can play
Thanks,
the outro music
ChatGPT.
again.
Well, it's a new year, so everybody likes to do their fitness goals and stuff. So, Brennan, did you come up with any great new fitness challenge goals for this year? Because we still go back to, our Men of Valor episode, where it's one of our biggest episodes ever. People like to hear us talk about our fitness goals and stuff. So
New Year's resolution.
I'm just going to keep on keeping on, because once I went to school, I started eating better, started working out more. Aiden, my roommate, he's on the wrestling team, so he has to stay fit and everything. So I lost 20 pounds this past semester.
Oh, he didn't gain the freshman 15. He lost the
I
freshman.
lost it plus 5. That's how good I was at college.
Nice.
Overachiever.
I like to hear that you were eating better at college. Maybe I need to go to college.
Yeah.
Because I've been eating horribly lately.
Yeah.
It's bad.
So just keep on keeping on. And then I came back home and gained 10 pounds.
Nice.
So you're at your, 15, you kind of.
Yeah, it's balancing out a little bit. Yeah. It's balancing out a little bit.
The problem with the holidays I have is that it's not the same routine.
No.
And so you get out of if you have healthy habits, whether it's eating or exercise, you get out of that routine. And that's why it's so hard. Just getting myself back into a routine that's healthy is always my challenge every year.
Yeah, and we have, church league basketball started, so now every night is taken away that.
Yeah.
Which right on the end of the holidays, that just throws me off.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting pretty good over the holidays and even December a little bit of just going home and getting in a recliner and watching TV, That I don't know. I was like, this is how the other half lives. This is pretty good. So
I had so much more time since I went to school to catch up on stuff like TV shows. I was so behind. And when I come home, I don't have as much time. But when I get to school, I catch up on stuff. And I'm excited for The Last of Us. Oh, I'm so excited for The Last of Us.
It's going to be good.
Well, that's one of the things you told me early on is we've talked over the semester and you're like, I have all this time.
Yeah. I didn't waste it all. I put it to good use.
Yeah. So going to college is not all as busy, rush as people say.
It doesn't have to be, as long as you're on your game. As long as you get your stuff done, then you got time to do other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's coming from like me, who's like a major procrastinator.
Yeah.
And all this stuff. But it's a lot less busy work. You know what I mean? All the work that you do means something, instead of just like handing out packets or whatever and all that stuff. Whatever.
Get on his soapbox over here.
I will get on that soapbox if I have to.
So we talk a lot about movies and shows and stuff on here and just different things because we're all interested in that. And that's actually what you're going to school for. So what'd you learn new about movies and stuff? And I think you would have a movie class or a production class or some kind of something you did.
Yeah, I had a post-production class, which is like video editing and some like history of video editing and stuff like that. I had some other classes that were kind of just like media in general, which is like, that's a lot to fit into like a semester class. Yeah. Went through like radio to TV to newspaper and all this other stuff, movies. Went into everything with a little bit of detail. Had a history of American television class, which was my favorite. I love that class so much, which was just the first quarter. So up until fall break was like the life of history in like a biography form. So starting like in the late 1800s when the idea was created and through like the early 1900s when it was invented and how it evolved and, cable and now streaming and all this other stuff. My history teacher's really funny. He labeled like if it's a biography that now we're in the midlife crisis with like streaming and all this other stuff. And it just doesn't like is old network cable dead? Is cable dead?
So what's the future for us? What did y'all decide? Because I'm sure that's where it'll happen.
Well, right now streaming is huge. I think everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But streaming is so huge. It's so out there. There's so many different things you can get, so many different services you can get. And eventually, it's just going to have to start merging. There has to be bundles. And I mean, that's what companies love to do anyway, Yeah. So eventually...
It's just back to cable. You're just picking your cable package.
Right. It'll eventually get down to probably 2 or 3 big ones.
Yep.
Where like Netflix will own Sony and blah, 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 and all these other things. HBO Max will have all the Warner Brothers stuff. Disney Plus, and you'll have a couple of... I mean, Disney Plus has Hulu. It has ESPN. He said the big thing right now that keeps cable going is live sports. That keeps like old-fashioned television going is live sports.
Yeah.
If live sports were not around, it would have been dead for a minute at this point.
Yeah.
But now you have Amazon in the live football game.
That's another thing we were talking about a lot. Yeah.
So I see this like the cycle of business in general. So you get a lot of monopolies, and then they're broken up into pieces. But then they eventually come back and merge together and become monopolies again. And so I see that kind of similar process happening with entertainment. Of course, you have big conglomerates that own television networks and movie studios and all that stuff too, but it happens with streaming as well, like you said, with the bundling, and it's going to be cable all over again.
Yeah.
In many ways, I think.
But on your phone. God,
Yeah, but I can watch it on my phone.
It'll be so cool. It's on your phone now instead of you have to sit down and sit
There's
in a
football
recliner.
on my phone.
You can do it on the train or on the bus or I don't know, while you're walking to school or something. I don't know. It's on your phone now.
It's on my phone.
It could be on your watch one day or like your glasses or something.
Yeah, that's what
Your
those
contacts.
Yeah, I've seen those contacts that they have now, where you can see the weather or a GPS or whatever just on your contact, so you can see it. Gives you like your own like little heads up display.
I hadn't seen
in
that.
your eye.
But that's like glass contacts, which I know they
Yeah.
have, but like I cannot imagine. Dude, if you like tripped and fall and like face planted and your glass contact broke in your eye.
You know, before they had like the plastic, all
That's what they
contacts
had.
were glass.
I know, yeah, I know.
My wife
I
had
just
those.
can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't get normal contacts in my eyes. My eyes are very like sensitive
Yeah.
to like light and everything. I can't put a finger in my eyeball to put a contact in.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine glass ones. Oh my gosh, that'd be awful.
So on the last half of your class, so what did y'all like talk about?
Talked about individual projects and how
TV
and how they evolved. So like I Love Lucy was huge.
Yeah.
Smothers Brothers,
All in the Family.
All in the Family,
I know
and
that's
then
always
and
gets
then
mentioned.
like its spinoffs. So like the Jeffersons, Maude,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
some of those, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. So just huge projects that have like changed the course. With Game of Thrones and Sopranos and The Wire, it's like how HBO and like cable, how they've changed the game to be premium television.
So like Yellowstone now and stuff.
We didn't
like
talk
that.
about Yellowstone, but yeah, it was.
But that's basically the same.
Right.
Game of Thrones probably kicked that up.
Yeah,
you know, so.
Game of Thrones. Yeah, it's massive. It's crazy.
Yeah, each episode had a bigger budget than a lot of movies do.
And then
You
Lord of
know?
the Rings came out, and then nobody watched it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't caught up. Have you watched it, Patrick?
I have not. I made it about 20 minutes in and I rage quit. So
No.
Yeah, I've watched a handful of episodes. I haven't
Yeah, me
finished
too.
it
I
yet,
got
but-
behind. I really liked House of Dragon, and then got really caught up because they were coming out at the same time.
as somebody that likes that kind of fantasy genre, this should be the golden era of all. I mean, we have so many fantasy shows between Lord of the Rings and House of the Dragon and,
Willow.
the Wheel of Time and all of these, but I am not excited about any of them. And I think it comes back to,
You're old.
well, no, I think that they've put so much effort into the visuals that they forgot that you're supposed to tell a story.
Have you seen Willow?
Yes, and well, no, I rage quit that one too because Willow is barely in the show. It's not about Willow. They wanted to tell a different story, but they wanted to shoehorn it into an existing IP that would
Right.
already have a dedicated fan base. So they knew
saw-
that they were going to have people watch it just because it was called Willow. But Willow is barely in it, and all of the reviews and everything are talking about how whenever Willow's in the show, it's the worst part of the show. And it's like, just call it something different. Don't try to make it a Willow. It's so frustrating to me.
It's about Val Kilmer's kids, right?
Theoretically.
Yeah.
It's just very frustrating to me.
Right.
Especially when they're taking IP that already exists that people really like because it had a really good story, and then either shoehorning it to push a political agenda or just to show off special effects. Because I feel like with the Lord of the Rings show, the visuals are immaculate. It's like some of the best, 3D rendering that exists in a TV show, and the costumes are fantastic and all the special effects. But it's not true to Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And so there's so many errors in it. And it's like, if you're going to spend all this time and money doing it, like the story has to be the foundation. And I don't know.
Apparently,
So-
House of Dragon was really good. I haven't read any of the books, so I can't completely say. But apparently, House of the Dragon was good at sticking to kind of
Yes.
the core ideas of the books. And it just won a Golden Globe for best drama series or whatever.
Yes, it's better than the others. I think for me, though, the thing that bothered me is that because it's a prequel to Game of Thrones, I know how it ends.
Right, yeah.
And I'm not thrilled with that. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I should be more excited for all of this because it's like, as a kid, I could only dream about, this kind of content being out there, and there's something weird going on because I'm not excited about it.
Well, I've got two thoughts on that. I know we're kind of down this rabbit hole a little bit, but and I'm interested to hear Brennan's thought on this with maybe some of his classes. But do we feel like that entertainment is, yes, it's advanced from the production standpoint, but is the story watered down, or things watered down because there's such a drive and such a need for content, period? That things have to be so fast-tracked, things have to be not as well thought out or developed because the drive for content with 24/7 and streaming is so great. That's one thing. The other thing is, I often feel like, and I would not consider myself a hardcore Star Wars fan. I haven't read all the books, and I don't know all the canon and all that stuff. But I think back in the early days of film, and even today, all of the B movies, which no one I think would ever say is high art or good story or anything, but the influence that has had on so many really good filmmakers. Mm-hmm. So what's the value of a project that's not very good, that doesn't have a great story, but has something? Is there value in that? Are we being too critical of some of these things, especially the serialized or within a particular universe or world of Star Wars? Or where does that fall?
Because like John Ford and John Wayne probably wouldn't make it today. You're right. Because of all those B spaghetti westerns they did forever until they really started hitting those big movies at the time.
Well, I feel like back then the westerns were like what superhero movies are today.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
But to that point, I think the difference that I see in this is that some of those old B movies that are really bad, they knew they weren't going to make a lot of money off of this. It felt more like, even though they were bad, more of a passion project, like it came from the heart. To me, I think what I'm seeing now in these fantasy shows, they're all just cash grabs because all of them are based off of existing property that are going to come with an included fan base. So Lord of the Rings or the House of the Dragon or Wheel of Time or Willow or any of those, they've got a fan base from years ago who've read the books or seen the old movie, whatever. And to me, it feels like they're kind of phoning the story in a little bit. And it's a kind of a cash grab because they know they're going to make money off of it, and they really don't have to put that much effort into it. And it feels like it's those old B movies still felt fun and campy, and like people cared about making them, and like they were sort of a passion project. For this, like, I don't feel like the creators care about the content. And I think that's the difference for me.
But it depends on who you're talking about, creators. I think the directors and the people in the film, whether it's cast or whatever, care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
That's their passion.
And their profession.
So I'm not being hypercritical. I'm questioning this idea. Is there value in entertainment, things that are visually entertaining, but not as strong story-wise?
There's one thing we were talking about in class. I mean, back when TV started, there was like 4 networks and like 7 shows. Yeah. And I mean, if you wanted to, you could time it out and watch just about everything. I mean, there's no recording or anything like that. And if you missed it, you missed it.
Right.
But now it's like, there's so much. It's impossible to keep up with it all, right? And so you have to choose what you like, and at the same time, kind of what you were saying about the B-movie stuff, I think those things are important because, like, way back when there was an old made-for-TV movie made by a pretty famous director nowadays about an evil pickup truck that was driving around trying to kill these other people that were in a car. And that sounds kind of stupid, right? That was one of Steven Spielberg's first movies. That movie, I mean, if you watch it and just kind of like replace like the evil truck with a shark, it's Jaws. Right? And then Jaws was the first major blockbuster. And now we've seen where that has led. That's led to like probably 80% of the cinema we experience today is like major blockbuster movies. So I think like there's definitely like a track. Like everything leads to another thing. It's just... yeah, there's just a lot of stuff right now, and it's impossible to keep up with it all.
And what I wonder is, in the social media world, YouTube, TikTok, you have
it's a whole
Instagram.
Nother animal.
Well, you have, and this is where I'm going with this, is you have everybody's a content creator, right? Or can be. And some of these people are getting millions and millions of views, and some of them are making more money than some of these people making big blockbuster movies. Have y'all talked about in class, or have y'all addressed, or do y'all, Patrick or Kevin, know, if you even heard this, do the big movie or even the TV production people, do they feel threatened at all by all these views and all these things that, a kid with a 10-year-old kid with an iPhone is doing? He's getting hundreds of millions of views and spending nothing and making, 6 figures a year. Do you think they feel threatened at all by the fact that people are drawn to that? Because young people would rather watch YouTube and Instagram and Reels and TikTok. I think a lot of times, at least more often, they're going to watch those things than they're watching some of the pay for apps and stuff.
Right, because their attention span is terrible.
So have y'all talked about that at all or anything? So
I think a lot of the times, like, you see people that like are doing like really creative stuff on these apps, right? Sometimes they'll end up in movies. Like, I think that's the next step for people that are doing really well.
That's a lot of the time. The discovery pipeline now.
Right. I think sometimes that's how it works out.
That's the same way with...
Or is that our beat roll now?
Well, it's the same way with music. Like, a record label is not going to sign a band unless they already have a following on TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
If you're not already doing really well on your own, they won't sign you.
So those are almost forcing you. I'm going to force you to sign me.
And so it's just kind of the same thing. It's like a lot of these movies and things use that as sort of a recruitment process. They look out at those and say, oh, this person is going to come with a 500,000 followers, already. So if we cast them in this movie, that's 500,000 tickets to our movie, or whatever, views on Netflix or whatever it is. And so they see that as, I think it's just to kind of help save them some time recruiting people.
Well, it's interesting because Netflix, I know, just invited a bunch of TikTok creators and some YouTubers to some of their big premieres of their new shows they were doing. I mean, they paid for all their stuff to go, big stuff. And they just were on the red carpet, but they were all streaming their stuff. I mean, so it's almost, we're going to use these people for our marketing.
I think Netflix is being smart about it because they've actually produced a couple of little things. They did wasn't it Netflix that did, you watch Corridor Crew? Brennan?
Yes. Yeah.
They did that team up show with Corridor Crew.
Maybe.
What was it called? Punch for Punch.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah. So they teamed up with a YouTube channel, Netflix did, and produced a little show. And so they're being smart about it, I think, and getting some of those YouTube content creators, especially the bigger ones, to kind of collaborate on some Netflix stuff to help bring that audience into
that children's thing that everybody's all crazy about. Coco Melon started. That was YouTube creator right there.
And that's where it came from. It was YouTube.
Bizarre.
I mean, yeah, and you could just sit there and fall on that pipeline, that rabbit hole for forever and just melt your kids' brains.
Yeah.
But you could just sit there and do that forever, but now it's on Netflix, and it's always in the top 10 on Netflix. If you pay any attention to it, it is always there because you'll just turn it on and it just sits in the background.
Elizabeth and I have had a conversation. Coco Melon is not going to be allowed in our household.
We'll see.
It's constant. I think the thing, like one of the things about it, I read or saw something because Lenore, my little sister, watched it for a little bit, and we don't want her to watch it much anymore, but it's just like there's always some sort of stimulus. Like there's always some sort of like a camera is moving or a little baby or whatever is moving.
The camera never stops moving in Coco Melon.
Yeah.
It is always pushing, panning, zooming, tilting, whatever. It's like it's always constantly in motion. It never stops. And so for babies, it's way overstimulating.
Which is interesting for a computer generated thing to move a camera. Well, that's all interesting. But we're glad you were coming in today, and we ended up having like some
deep conversation,
deep stuff here.
He's a college student.
Who knows what we would have talked about if those wild dogs weren't in the way.
I didn't even get into talking about Nerfs.
That's deep.
That is deep.
Yeah.
But I would enjoy it.
Well, in the future, we do have some more guests coming, and then we have some things we kind of wanted to do some deeper discussions like this, but a little more theological. So those are going to be coming down the way too, and just kind of looking at those of the church. So we have some neat stuff, I think, for the next 100 that we're kind of planning. Anyway, we're going to expand our guest list and not just be inside of Northside, but we're going to be bringing some people from West Tennessee in to visit some too as well. So that'll be fun. So, well, Brennan, I know you're leaving in about 48 hours back to Murfreesboro.
Yep, to be able to come back just as easily as I was before. It's not super far.
Well, have a good semester.
Thanks.
And come back anytime and hang out with us. We always enjoy having you in. So, Patrick, we got anything exciting coming up on the calendar at the church?
We do have a couple of things I would suggest putting on your calendar. We've got a couple of informational meetings about some upcoming mission trips. On January the 22nd, there's an informational meeting about the trip to the Holy Land. And I want to say this trip, they're also going to the pyramids.
It does say Egypt on there.
So I would highly recommend. I want so badly to go on this trip, but it's just time-wise, it's not going to work out for me. So I want to live vicariously through all of you. So please, if you're even the slightest bit interested, I would go check out this informational meeting on January 22nd. I believe it is at 1 o'clock. Yes, 1 o'clock in room 301 here at the church. So go there, just find out some more information if you're interested at all. And then the following week on January 29th, there will be an informational meeting about a trip to Africa. We're going back to Gamasara in Tanzania. That meeting will be at 2 o'clock, also in room 301. So I would put those on your calendar if you're interested in going on a mission trip. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm going to be going on that Africa trip, so we've talked already about maybe doing some remote work while I'm there. That'll be fun. We'll see. We'll make that work.
Yeah. Northside Now, on location. Also coming up, we have a parents' night out. So for all of you parents that need a break from your kids.
They will not be watching Cocomelon, will they?
I hope not.
I don't know.
But on February the 10th, it's a Friday night, from 5:30 to 8:30, you can bring your kids up here to the church. It's $5 per kid, but a $10 max per family. So if you've got a lot of kids, don't worry, it's only going to be $10. And there's going to be pizza, and they're just going to hang out and let you go get some shopping done, take a nap, go on a date with your spouse, whatever you need to do.
Well, you know what that is, don't you? Public service announcement.
I mean,
that's the weekend before Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Stay off of Van Drive.
Yes. So if you want to have your Valentine's Day before Valentine's Day, which is probably smart.
Yeah, that counts.
Yeah. Van Drive is horrible on that weekend.
So
It's horrible all the time, though.
Yeah, but it's extra bad then with all the eating places and stuff. So
yes, put that on your calendar as well. And then also, this is a little bit further into the future. There are the Walk to Emmaus. I'm sure most people have heard of that. There is a walk coming up for the men, March 2nd through the 5th, and the women, March 16th through the 19th. And if you're interested in going to that, it's a 3-day spiritual renewal and formation experience. It's an opportunity to spend 3 days focused on Jesus Christ as God's grace and love is revealed to you through other believers. Many individuals from Northside have experienced this event. If you haven't gone or are interested in going, please contact Daphne Moses in the church office, and you can get an application for her or find out some more information. You can contact her at Daphne at Northside Jackson too if you don't want to come up to the office. Those dates are in March, but you can go ahead and get an application and sign up now.
Glenn, when is that Discovery thing?
Hopefully we'll hear a date today as we're recording this, and so we'll be able to publish it soon, but probably the end of March, 1st of April, somewhere in that range.
What is Discovery?
Discovery is a lot like Emmaus, and it's for junior high kids, but this year we're going to cut it because Chrysalis is the teenage version of Emmaus, and it's for 10th grade and above, and that's not meeting this year. And COVID really hit that in the head hard. So we're going to develop a Discovery Chrysalis blend for junior high and senior high. Our senior high will do a lot of the talks and stuff, but we're also tag teaming up with Do Hopewell.
Yeah.
In Medina.
Okay.
It used to be First Methodist. Cameron's out there, so we're going to tag team with them and some of the other churches that have left the Methodist denomination, kind of like what we did a couple of years ago, and invite them in as well.
Nice. So
most of them are smaller churches, and in youth ministry, you're kind of plugged into like-minded and like-grouped people, and we've kind of missed that. Everybody kind of feels like they're out there on their own island, so we're hoping to let everybody know there's not as much water between the islands as it feels like right now.
Nice.
So that's the plan, and it's going to be a really big event here at the church, and it's going to take a all hands on deck kind of approach. So
if the Methodist Church is listening, we'll all be in the same place.
But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. When stuff's finalized, we'll be sure to let you know.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for podcasting with me. And thanks to all of you out there in the world for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Northside Now Podcast. Go to our website, northsidejackson.com, or email us at podcast@northsidejackson.com. We hope to hear from you soon. Once again, this is Patrick.
This is Glenn.
I'm Kevin.
Oh, the wild dogs are getting in. Oh, we got to cut the podcast. This was Brennan, but the dogs are getting in. Oh, no.
And that's what's happening at Northside now.
The dogs.